Hey, you wild women. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so I just finished celebrating a birthday. And I'm in my 40s. And let me tell you, this is the time that I believe that women are the most beautiful, the most confident, the most caring for themselves because they've lived their 20s, they lived their 30s, and now in their 40s, doing the thing that I hope they love to do. But it has also been the time of the biggest transformations of my life. Yes, I've had children in my 30s, I got married in my 30s, and those are big life events. There's no doubt that those are some of the most significant life events. But there is something in this birthday, there's something about celebrating this birthday for me that was life changing. And as I reflect on the previous year, it really came down to a few things. Um, as our lifespan is extended now as a Canadian, I think it's like 82.6 as a woman. Um, and as we learn more about nutrition, about menopause, perimenopause, all these things, I'm able to like connect the dots on the things in my life that are not serving me in terms of my mental health and my physical health, but also just in terms of who I want to be, where I want to be, how I want to show up, and who I want to surround myself with. And so I thought I'd record a quick little episode about my reflections of aging and some birthday reflections from this past year and then going forward too. So for me, this year was really significant in the sense that, we jot these things down in our journals about stuff that we want to achieve in our life, who we want to be, what we want to do. If we want to wake up at 5 a.m. and have a green juice and go to the gym. And it took a lot of testing of things like the past, 5 years. I felt like I was in this zone of trying to figure out the things that really lit me up, even in terms of hobbies. So from drumming, which I really haven't been on my drum set in a year, hilarious, and I want to come back to it. It has been a busy year. To what I want to do with my kids on the weekends, to how I want to be with my husband. And I will say that what I learned about myself the most is that when I'm in these moments of enjoying life. So for instance, I just went to Vancouver with my mom overnight, which is crazy because it was a 5-hour drive and we went overnight and did a little shopping and I brought her out for dinner. But what I realized is that it's what I wanted to do. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just is what I want to do. And in all these years of my life, I'm finally in this point of asking for the things that I want and asking for help and asking to get a nice bag and asking to sign up for the hardest personal trainer in my city and asking for meal prep and helping more help around the house and having the kids do more. Because what I really fundamentally have done and achieved in this last year of the life that I just lived in this past year was that I started to break free of what was expected of me, of the societal expectations of me. And this meant that I was paying more attention to my health and nutrition and putting myself before anybody else and exercise and getting a good night's sleep and nurturing the right friendships and being okay with abundance. And I'd say that probably the last two is where I grew the most. So that was in terms of like nurturing friendships. I just really held close to the friends that meant the most to me. And that even included family members. These are people who actually make me feel good and energize me when we're around each other. My biggest growth, though, was in understanding abundance. And it's funny because on this 5-hour drive home from Vancouver with my mom, who's 78, we had a really deep conversation about this in terms of abundance and understanding that I had, probably because of how I was raised, but also how society really crafted the narrative of the story that I told myself about what it meant to be wealthy. And wealthy in many ways could be like money in the bank, in health, in friendships, but really how I misunderstood abundance. That creating abundance in life is not finite. There's no end. It's not like there's $100 billion in the world. There's never going to be more in terms of value, and that if you are wealthy or rich, it means that you're taking away from somebody else. The opposite is actually true. That money in great hands creates more abundance, and creates more significance, creates more impact, more possibility, and saves lives. Knowing that meant that I had to step into this person that was okay with living in abundance. And like I mentioned on previous episodes, that I was once so embarrassed to drive around in a nice car. I was embarrassed to share stories about the trips that I was going on, or the cool gifts that I received, or the incredible people that I surrounded myself with, because I felt like other people were going to judge me, that I was taking away from other people. This past birthday was not only incredibly surprising, the best gifts, and I'll tell you about those in a second. And what's interesting about it is, I will say this is probably one of the best birthdays I've ever had. And it's in celebration of a birthday age that isn't really that significant. Like, I didn't turn 40, I didn't turn 50, I'm in between. And people celebrated as though it was like a milestone birthday. And when I actually came home and I reflected on it from the surprise birthday party that I had, was that people weren't celebrating my age. They weren't celebrating that I turned 43. There it is. They were celebrating me. They were celebrating how I made them feel when I was around. They weren't celebrating the fact that I survived and lived another year and thrived another year. And that was absolutely the best gift I ever received. And I remember this going into a mastermind a few months ago, and Amy Porterfield helped me feel good about being in this room surrounded by brilliant minds. And she said to me, Renee, it's not about what you do, it's about who you are. And that is the biggest impact and the biggest significance you can have in life. And so this age, in terms of the age that I turn, is significant for many reasons, but partially because they've done the studies, like, statistically, this is the age where women start to feel like they're getting older. They don't feel young anymore. Beauty isn't the thing that we're selling. Now it's like wisdom. When I walk around, it's not like there's this hot woman. It's really about there's this gracious, confident, wise woman, which ultimately is the biggest compliment. So a couple of things that I reflected on my birthday was my growth and the accomplishments that I have achieved, and celebrating those more than worrying about what I should be achieving or where I should be in my life. Because I know that I have a kind heart. I know that I'm giving. I know that I'm creating impact and breathing possibility into other people. That self-assuredness, that confidence is the best compliment I could give myself. And I am just so thankful and gracious that I finally came to this point of recognizing that. Also understanding my health awareness. I get these like low iron seasons of my life. Usually that falls in October, and we're a couple months shy of that, but recognizing the symptoms of me needing to go get iron IVs, recognizing the little hints that my body gives me that I'm tired, that I need rest, that I'm overwhelmed, or something's bugging me. Knowing that it's not just because I've jet lag or because I'm working too hard. My body is telling me something, and recognizing that the moment that it comes up. So that health awareness is also an incredible gift. I've also reevaluated my priorities. So some cool things that are happening in my business, of which I will make an announcement coming up soon, has been something that I have always dreamed of. And now I get to go and focus on expanding the wealth and expanding my legacy and really depositing the greatness into my family, into my business, and those I love and care about. The other thing too, which is always a sensitive subject, but is really understanding like mental health and self-care. I always wanted to exude online this woman who has full confidence, is completely responsible, always takes care of herself. But what I realized in these moments was that sharing the parts of my life that were tough and sharing something that I've overcome is not only helping me, but it's helping people in my community and those that follow me. And so the self-care part of this has been absolutely the most important thing. And my husband knows this too, in that when I am getting overwhelmed or when I do need a night to just step back and be alone, he respects that. And he's like, oh, Renee needs to top up her introverted love tank. That's cool. But not being shy to say, hey, this is what I need. It's not necessarily what I want, because yes, I get FOMO, but this is what I need. And having all the people in my life recognize that, from my family, to my kids, to my husband, to my friends, like even one of my best friends going through this really crazy time in her life. And there's just a lot of crazy things happening all at once. And we spent some time together lately. And I let her, you know, just I let me be the shoulder that she needed to cry on. It got to the point where it was emotionally affecting me. I just had to put my hand out and say, listen, you talk about this a lot. I love you. But for this particular subject, over the next few weeks, is it cool if you ask me permission to talk about this? Because right now I'm a little bit more overwhelmed with other things happening in my life, and I'm not necessarily spiritually or emotionally available for these conversations all the time. And she realized, like, the gift in that moment was that she realized, oh wow, I do talk about this a lot. And she got silent in it too, because then she couldn't think about what she needed to talk about to me in those moments. But it kind of helped, like it allowed me to hold up a mirror to her, for her to see that there was things in her life that she needed to reflect on and she needed to work on, and that I was the person that she had full confidence in sharing this stuff with hopes of feeling better and maybe providing some guidance, but in also knowing that I needed that too. And so being the good friend was also calling her out on that stuff. It is something I would not have had the confidence a year ago. I would have been so worried that she would feel attacked or misunderstood, so worried that she thought that I didn't like her. But because I added this layer of elegance and just asking for permission to talk about this subject, she thanked me. She apologized and she thanked me. But I think in those moments, I just realized, like, I'm living a life that is seemingly perfect and great, but I don't always air my dirty laundry. I don't always talk about the things that struggle. And yes, I do share those stories, but it's not something that I feel it's anybody else's responsibility to help me with. And then if I do need help, I'll reach out to close friends, but I also want to be relevant and relatable to people. And so building that confidence and saying, I see you, I hear you, I love you, but let's just pause on this for a moment, because this negative energy is affecting me. And it was like overdosing me. And now the way that I phrased it and how she, like, very mature woman, so she understood as well, I can actually approach other tough conversations about that too. Like my family, the one person complains about the other person and so on and so forth, like my mom and dad. It's hilarious. But now I have these tools where I can just help provide guidance and also say, can we just not talk about this right now? And it not feeling like an attack. So that was a massive reflection. And gosh, if I can use this going forward, it's going to be a game changer for me. And then the last thing too, which was like some of the most significant growth that I've had in the past year, was towards empowerment and legacy. Um, how I'm going to create a lasting impact. Feeling this incredible draw to give more and schedule my days around supporting the people in community that need me the most, and working on projects that I know are just going to light me up, and pulling in the right people, not because of what they've achieved, but because of who they are. And that right there is the biggest, most hugest lesson I learned in this past year of my life, is that it is not what I do or what I've done or the accomplishments I've achieved in my life, but who I've become and who I am becoming that is going to help create abundance, leave a lasting legacy, help me feel healthier, wealthier, happier. Because I know that good money in the hands of the right people will create the biggest impact. And that is where I am. That is what I reflected on this 2 days post birthday, surrounded by some incredible people. And by the way, my husband surprised me with over 20 of my closest friends, which blew me away. Like, best gift ever. But really not being afraid to ask for what I want. And also being afraid to ask and not being afraid to ask for help. Because, first of all, if you haven't read my husband's book, Buy Back Your Time, you will know the first thing is learning how to delegate. But even in my life, like today after dinner, we had dinner. My mom knew I had to come up and record this podcast, and I'm exhausted from this weekend, but I'm here. And I didn't feel guilty walking away from a kitchen that needed to be cleaned. And she said, I got this. I didn't feel guilty that my kids are playing on their VR and Fortnite at 8 p.m. during the week because I want to be here. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to be talking about. And I think that we don't even need permission to be asking for the things that we want or asking for the help. We just need to do it because men do it. Other successful women do it. So why can't this be you? Why can't this be me? Why can't this be us, the biggest cheerleaders supporting each other to create a legacy, leave an impact, and help more people that we ever thought possible? So if you are celebrating a birthday, my fellow Leos, happy birthday. To all you other incredible women. Until next time, peace out.